With all the talk about acquiring new championships and facing various challenges on the horizon, there's one question at the core of all of this since the day of reckoning. Anthony Joshua, what's with the departure of Derrick James? Let's talk about this. In what seemingly had been a quality pairing in the sport of boxing for the heavyweight division, Anthony Joshua had hired the services of coach Derrick James. This had been something that was unanticipated, as to prior to his rematch defeat at the hands of Alexander Usyk in August of 2022 under the tutelage of Robert Garcia. Joshua sought out a different trainer. Oftentimes, when you make moves like this, it's really a reflection of what's unsettled with the fighter more so than who works with the fighter. But to enlist the services of a coach like James, who had been riding a wave of success with his camp out of Texas, the likes of Earl Spence Jr., who was a unified champion, Jermell Charlo, who was an undisputed champion, and Frank Martin, who was an up-and-coming contender seeking a title opportunity. Joshua joined up with these men and brought his record of 26-3 with 24 KOs to this camp. He began to take on some of the knowledge that James had to share with him, and in fact, he scored a victory over Jermaine Franklin Jr. in April of 2023. Their outing together, their first outing together, that brought success. Now, though he didn't win his rematch with Alexander Usyk, Joshua had some situations during the fight, the rematch with Usyk, that coach Robert Garcia brought him along quite well. Some of what Joshua put on display in that fight had everything to do with his issues, which were really of confidence. Not the fact that he didn't have the ability to win, but having confidence in what he brings, what his particular game plan may be, and how to execute and go about that to be successful. Even in the aftermath of the decision defeat, he still showed some psychological aspects that he wasn't handling circumstances well. This typically stems from when everyone has been kind of patting you on the back, inflating your ego. But I had maintained that Joshua's issues are not external. They are not from the people that he has worked with. They stem from within. Even going back to McCracken, his coach that brought him along the way where he won his first title. Being dismissive of Coach McCracken showed me something about him, meaning Joshua, that said that there's an issue that really needs to be resolved. When you make mistakes, you have to have accountability. However, our teachers, our mentors, our instructors always want the best for us. And sometimes it's a difficult task in telling us that we need to improve. We need to get better. That we're just not good enough at the moment. But that's not raining on your parade. That's not chastising you unfairly. That's not even taking away from what you may have accomplished. But they always, if they're good, want to leave space for improvement and growth within their subjects. And I personally believe Mr. McCracken had Joshua's ear until he didn't. And what does that mean? When he didn't was when the money came and he could write his own ticket and he can get people to wait on his beck and call. When he can tell someone and be dismissive or decide that he doesn't want to go a certain direction. Well, money changes people sometimes. And I believe that what he had going for himself originally had him in the right frame of mind, had him executing the right way professionally. And even though he suffered a setback with that first loss to Andy Ruiz Jr., it was a situation where he could grow from. He could have learned from the situation to become a better fighter and man. Now, James was definitely a good move, but Robert Garcia was not necessarily a bad move. Joshua's situation has not changed. He has been reminded of what his skill sets are, and they've been on display in his last two fights against Franklin and also Otto Vollen. But they were also on display in his rematch against Alexander Usyk, and that was attributed to the work he had done solidly with Robert Garcia. Imagine if he had full stock in what Mr. McCracken was trying to do with him. Even when you suffered the loss against Andy Ruiz Jr., to be able to overcome the shortcomings that led to that loss. Was it lack of focus, or was it some type of internal conflict or external? Whatever it was, it needed to be dealt with instead of glossed over and walked away from. And that's where we see the issues will persist. Now Derrick James is out and Ben Davis is in. Ben Davis has had success with a number of fighters out of the UK, and in the Otto Vollen fight, he's had success with Joshua and will be attributed as such. But what Derrick James was able to do for Anthony Joshua in the year or so that he worked with him, with one fight under their belt, what Derrick James was able to provide him is something that he's not just going to receive any place. But Joshua, if he's unhappy with Davis, he'll get rid of him as well. But the problems will remain at the core, and the core happens to be Anthony Joshua is lacking some character. And until he deals with that, he's always gonna have a tug of war in the ring. And you cannot get beyond that because you cannot hide from yourself. This is Stormy B-Man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know what your thoughts are, and